Hello, hello, and welcome back to Kim Talks. I'm Kim Hayden, your host. And you know what? I'm super excited that you're taking time to share just your energy and coming to the table and listening to the stories of these amazing women. So, here at Kim Talks Resilience, we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. But first, before we dive into today's conversation, I do want you to take a moment and do check out our new store, www.queenofresilience.shop. This is our online store. We have a bit of sass, a lot of fun, but be sure, straighten your crown, shop around queenofresilience.shop. So today's guest is an absolutely beautiful woman inside and out, and I'm super excited to do a deep dive in her story. But Christine Handy is a mother of two, a breast cancer survivor, international speaker, and accomplished model. She is also, get this, a student at Harvard, mentor, board member of two nonprofits, and a nationally recognized humanitarian. Christine Handy is a popular social media influencer and Fox News breast cancer expert. Christine has seen it all and has overcome all odds. Her motto is there's always purpose in pain. So there's always purpose in pain, but we have to be willing to share the story. And this is what really drew me to Christine today. Christine is a best selling author of the book Walk Beside Me, a story of hope, faith, friendship, hardship, and taking a closer look at what truly matters. So, welcome to the show, Christine. Let's get you in here. Here she comes. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you
I
for
am
that lovely introduction.
Thank you. It's better when I take my time. I usually always, just so everybody knows out there, I usually read these off and blah, 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 I do it really fast and then I trip over my tongue and they're going, what? So. But yes, it takes a few moments. No, I'm super excited to dive into this. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually set the foundation. I want people to know a little bit more of who you are.
Well, my name is Christine Handy. I'm a mother, which is my most important job. I'm an avid tennis player, which will be shocking to you after we talk about my story. I live in Miami, Florida, so I'm a beach girl, not a mountain girl. And I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, so I'm forever a Midwesterner.
Oh, and I'm from Kansas, so we've got that in common. But you got the beaches, and I'm from mountains. Can you tell how white I am? And so I blend in with the
Better for
snow
you.
caps. There you go. There you go. So share with us what you do.
So I get to wake up every single day and serve in some capacity, whether it's with my book, whether it's with my speaking career, whether it's modeling with a concave chest in New York Fashion Week or the summer in Miami Fashion Week, or if it's mentoring cancer patients or mentoring prisoners, which I do as well, or working with brands on social media, giving people hope and sharing my purpose, and even with my children. So pretty much from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to bed, I'm serving, I'm inspiring, I'm giving people hope in some regard. So I do a lot of different things, but altruism is what I do.
Altruism. Well, you had also said like mentorship. So what does that look like? So, we know the obvious of mentoring our children to be the best human beings they can be. But you know, what is that around mentorship that is part of your purpose?
So I started to speak in the prisons in the state of Florida about 4 years ago. And when I started to speak in the prison system, I had no idea that that would be kind of a passion of mine. I was chosen as a motivational speaker, and I wasn't chosen to be in women's prison. I was chosen to be in men's prisons, which in my speaking career, I've historically only spoken in women's organizations. And so that was kind of a surprise for me, but I'm always up for a challenge. So I said, no problem. And when I started to speak in these prisons, there's an app called JPEG, and you can email the prisoners back and forth. So if they ask me when I'm at that prison if I will email them with them, then I always say yes. So I have a lot of people in the prison system who email me and expect a response. So I do that. I mentor a lot of prisoners, and that's how I do it. But I also have had the opportunity to mentor some of them since they've gotten out of jail. A couple specifically, one reached out to me about 4 years ago, and he reached out to me on Facebook, I think, originally. And he said, "Would you mind meeting me? I have an idea." And I thought, "Yeah, no problem." A couple of my friends said, "You're crazy. You should not go meet somebody that just got out of prison for 30 years for murder." And I said, "You know what? Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story of forgiveness. And if we can't forgive people that come out of jail, then, that's our problem. And that's my heart. I'm not going to live like that." So I went to meet this gentleman, and he showed up in a red suit, like a red jacket, a red shirt, red pants, red shoes, and a briefcase. And he said, "I think we should start an organization in the Palm Beach County, which is a big county in Florida, and we should try to change the rate of recidivism," which, by the way, was 97% 4 years ago. If you don't know what that word means, it's the rate of people going back to jail. 97%
And
is
in the United States, it's the highest globally. It's the
unacceptable.
yeah, I agree.
Unacceptable. So I said to him, "You know what? Let's talk through this." And it took several months, but 4 years later, we have a full board of people. We have raised a ton of money. We have great resources for people who come out of the prison system in Palm Beach County. And we're helping to teach them how to fish. Like, we're not giving them handouts. We're trying to teach them. And so I said yes to this prisoner. So that's kind of what I mean by mentoring. There's a lot of women who have reached out to me on socials with breast cancer. I mentor them. I Zoom with them. In any regard that I obviously have no social life. So in any regard that I can, I'm helping other people, giving them hope, because I know how much despair costs you. I know what feeling like paralysis emotionally feels like. I've been in that
Yeah,
position. I don't want people to be in that position. I want somebody like if it has to be me, it'll be me. I want somebody to give somebody hope.
absolutely. And when you compound the real world on top of the first 4 foundational years, because
Yeah.
you've been blessed to be able to raise your children and you've given them good foundational years so that they
Yeah.
can make better choices. There's a lot of people that don't have the security of those first 4 years, and you probably have seen some of these studies in working within the prisons and such. But
Yeah.
even when we talk about coming through the mental well-being of somebody who is going through, I'm not saying having a good attitude will cure cancer. I am
No.
saying a good attitude will help you be able to choose the right foods, get the right amount of sleep, do the exercises, and show up every day to ensure that you're having the best odds with cancer. But if you don't have those foundational years, then eh, mentorship is almost beyond the critical stage. It's
Yeah.
so essential
Yeah.
because you have to have that exoskeleton of support. Does
Yeah.
that
No,
sound
that's a
right?
beautiful way to say it. Yeah. That's so true.
So in your studies on I am curious, and we're going to keep moving into everything else you're doing, but I just want to look into this a little bit further. So in creating this nonprofit to work
Yes.
with people coming out of the prison system in the United States,
Yeah.
have you looked at other countries and seen what they're doing to help their incarceration rate to decline? And I mean, are you looking like where are you getting your information? I'm sorry, I'm totally
No, I
fascinated
love
by
it. I
this.
love it. I love it. No, a couple of the board members, actually this couple, who have been married forever, like 50 years, they started a similar organization up in Boston. And when they moved to South Florida, they were connected with this prisoner as what same as myself, and they joined the board, and they have been instrumental. They have done a lot of the legwork, and they basically brought what they learned up there to us. And so on a day-to-day basis, I don't go through those numbers. I don't go through that data. They do. I'm the president of the organization. I have different responsibilities. Um, but yeah, but I have looked into it. I just don't meditate on that because I have so many other things
Yeah.
that are going on in my life,
So you're
including
the
school.
voice. You're up there beating the drum. You're the front.
That's
Yeah.
one of my jobs. I have to keep everybody in line because this is amazing to me. I'm on the board of two. I'm on two boards.
What's the other
People
one?
fight. People fight. I'm not kidding you. People fight in these boards. And so I'm like, I'm kind of the peacemaker. And so that's another one of my jobs. Um, The other board that I sit on is called eBeauty, and eBeauty is a wig exchange program. It's for women going through treatment who cannot afford a wig. I went through chemotherapy. I did not have any hair. I was privileged enough to be able to afford many wigs. And my children really needed to see their mother with a wig. They wanted me to look like as much as I could like myself. But so many women cannot afford a wig and they're expensive. So we have partnered with L'Oreal and the Paul Mitchell salons. L'Oreal gives us grant money and the Paul Mitchell salons wash and style our wigs. And then we ship them out. Our biggest cost for eBeauty is shipping these wigs out. But it's a free resource for women. And so I'm always constantly trying to promote it because people don't know about it. So if you go to ebeauty.com and you're going through treatment and you need a wig, you can pick out the color, the cut, the style, and we will ship it to you.
Amazing. And I'm going to make sure all that information is in this also. Like, and we haven't even delved into, basically you've already shared 2 full-time jobs and you've got everything else you're still doing. You said you're still doing runway. Is that
I
correct? You're
am.
still doing modeling. So can you share a little bit with us on that? Because you know what, to be honest, I was always the big girl and the unique girl. I was the art kid. I was the art kid in school. So I have
Yeah.
always wondered about professional modeling because obviously your
Yeah.
life must be a cakewalk and you just like every day wake up
Right. Oh yeah.
gorgeous.
So easy.
Okay.
Absolutely. No problem. I got no problems. No, but
So tell me.
basically what you just said is so true, right? Like people labeled you and put you in a box, right? And you
Yeah.
fit that box. Like that's how we define ourselves. For me, I defined myself very young as a model. And so I adhere to society's value of me, which was my external value was my only worth. And so I hammered it into my self-esteem though. If I didn't have these great modeling jobs, then I was not worth anything. And so I picked relationships based on that. I made decisions based on that low self esteem. And the ironic thing about it is, most people that look at successful models think their self esteem is stellar. It's absolutely not true. Most of the models that I worked with had very little self esteem. So it's been my job, my mission in life to work on my self esteem ever since chemotherapy when I thought I had no value in this world. And so when I lost my hair and lost what I thought was my value, I had to really dig deep inside through the duress, through the panic, through the I have no idea who I am stage, and say to myself, okay, we got to get to know you. Because for 40 years, you were materialistic, you were self involved, you were insecure, you were totally suffocating yourself with external things and external accolades. Let's start talking to each other about like what it is that makes you tick. What keeps you up at night? I'm asking myself these questions going, I have no idea. I like to play tennis. Why? Because my kids like to play tennis. I like to do this because my husband likes to do this. I like to do this because my friends like to do this. What did I like to do? I had no idea. So going back to the modeling, after I was finished with chemotherapy, I didn't right away call my modeling agency. But a couple years later, I had a MRSA infection in my chest and my implants had to be extracted. And so I became all of a sudden concave, even though I'd already had my my breasts removed and they were reconstructed with these beautiful implants, which by the way I loved. And so all of a sudden I get this MRSA infection and this breast implant illness, and they have to be excavated. So now I'm faced with a concave chest, which I never had to face going through breast cancer. And I called my modeling agency and I said, I think I need to come back to work. And at that time I was 49 years old, 50. And my modeling agency said, like, what do you mean? And I said, I know how bad this feels to have a concave chest in a society that defines beauty as our self value. I know how bad I felt when my chest was excavated twice. Now I have to help women so they don't feel as bad as I do. So I'm going to, although I was never a runway model, I was a print model. I said, I would like to walk in New York Fashion Week. And she said, no, not a chance. You're not a runway model. You have never been a runway model. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to fly up to New York and I'm going to, kind of barge my way into New York Fashion Week. So I did that last September. And I literally was not invited to any shows, but I found my way in shows. I went to the designers. I said to the designers, I've been a model for 40 years. I have a concave chest. Women are suffering. Women who have to face this or have as a reality feel shame, they feel alone in this. I want to get on the runway and walk and show them that this is just as beautiful. And so I got 4 brands to hire me, and I walked in New York Fashion Week in February, and now I've been hired to do Miami Swim Week. So I'm trying to get in shape for that. So, you know what? Here's the thing. We can have all these doors closed, right? And that's life. But if we don't meditate on the outcome and say, okay, wait, you know what? They said no, I'm going to keep going. You never know what you can accomplish. And I can tell you, I have changed lives by walking in New York Fashion Week.
Amazing. Well, you're walking out there and you're putting it all out there. I want to circle back around to speaking in the prisons and speaking in general. So
Yes.
one of the things that so as I go on the road, I meet a lot of women. I interviewed 30 female entrepreneurs in Atlanta in 8 hours
Wow.
when I was down there. So my goal is to find out how to get these voices out there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always asking women who have been able to uh, not only want to become a speaker, but get to become a speaker because it is a
Yes.
privilege to be able to
Sure.
push through and get those opportunities. No matter how you work, how hard you work, there's a lot of people who work hard and they never seem to click. What were
Sure.
some of the things that you put in place that enabled you to plant that flag as a professional speaker?
So it's really hard to get hired by speaking agencies. That I will just put out there. When I finally was hired by All American Speakers, which was a couple years into my speaking career, that I thought I'd won the lottery. But the speakers bureaus, they don't promote you. I mean, maybe they do with like the speakers that are making $1 million a speech.
Fair.
Maybe they do. But yeah, they're not promoting me. So I had to promote myself. And after I was promoting myself on socials and YouTube and all these platforms that we try to promote, not was not self-serving, right? And I think people see that about me. And so when I was sharing my story, one of the reasons why I think it became popular was because of the vulnerability. I would talk about the really dark moments and talk about like how did I get up from those dark moments. And I think people need to hear that because then they don't feel so alone in their life and in their stories. Because, like you said, going back to the modeling, people's perception of they look at a glimpse of what we're doing and they're like, oh, she's successful. Oh, she's had a leg up. Oh, she's that's a bunch of bullshit. That's not true at all. I I mean, I'm handicapped. I I can't even tell you how many things are not going right in my life. But we show up every day and we try to help other people. And I think that shines through. And so if I have the privilege of getting on any platform, whether it's brands in social media or whether it's on a stage with by myself or other people, it is a privilege. I take it as a privilege and I keep promoting it. I put it on my socials and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm trying to do. And again, if it's not self serving, I think people see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the content will sell a service if the content is authentic, right?
Right.
People see that, right?
And vulnerable.
Uh,
And vulnerable.
absolutely. So, okay, so we've covered off the speaking, we've covered off the modeling, we've covered off the nonprofit, we've talked about you have 2 children. How old are they now? I thought you were much younger than what you're telling me. You are so well preserved. This is
Thank you.
beautiful. This is
Which
awesome.
is which is shocking because I had 28 rounds of chemo and I've had 23 non-elective surgeries. I've been cut up more times than anybody you know, I guarantee it.
So you talk about disabled. Do you mind sharing with us what is the disability or
Yeah.
oh,
So, yeah, no, I'd be happy to. So let's go back to the self-esteem that was non-existent prior to my cancer diagnosis. I had a torn ligament in my right wrist and I went to see 3 great doctors. I picked one of them, the Stanford grad, I picked the pedigree guy and he performed the surgery. And because my self-esteem was low, I'm not blaming this completely on myself, but he after the cast came off, I had all these other issues. And he misdiagnosed what that was. He sent me to a physical therapist far away from his office. He bullied me emotionally and told me that all the pain and the swelling was in my head, and I believed him. And after 7 or 8 months of him bullying me and calling me a hysterical housewife, although I'd never shed a tear in his office, I finally got up enough courage because I didn't have a very good self-esteem and saw a second opinion. At that point, my arm, I almost lost my right arm. All the cartilage in my right arm, right wrist was destroyed. There was not any left. My bones in my right wrist were totally, all of them were broken. There was not one bone that was not broken. So I had to go into immediate surgery and they dug out as much infection as they could. And then they put a PICC line in my arm. Then I flew up to New York City to a hospital called HSS, which is a hospital for special surgery. And a very kind doctor took my case. Oftentimes, doctors won't take other doctors' botched cases. That's liability.
Yep.
And he took out my wrist and he fused it with cadaver bones, a cadaver Achilles tendon, and bone grafts, and stitched it up. And I came back 6 weeks later for my 6-week post arm fusion appointment, and I was in the shower trying to wash my body with a bar of soap, and I felt a lump in my breast. And
Oh my
5 days
God.
later, 5 days later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so, because my arm is fused, I have no wrist. I'm in constant pain, and I couldn't even start chemotherapy because of the bone grafts, and the cadaver bones would have dissolved if I'd started chemotherapy. So I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer and then couldn't even start treatment for a month because of what the doctor did to my arm.
Um,
Talk about learning how to forgive.
oh
That was
yeah.
my that was a real struggle for me, but I don't give that man any weight in my life ever.
Wow. Okay. So I
So I'm
mean, I'm just
disabled in my
blown
right
away.
arm.
You have just such a like you said, you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? You've that's why the pain in purpose, that or purpose in pain. That's why that's in your motto. So when we go into this, okay, so before we jump into the why, this is where I'm going to take a quick break, folks. I want you, if you're loving this conversation, you want to learn more, you want to dig into the why, and then have Christine share with us some other ideas around, what she fills her soul with, what she fills her life with. Uh, be sure that you go like, subscribe, comment, and share. Please, please, please. This is how we keep the podcast moving forward. This is how we keep exploring and sharing these amazing stories of resilience and women who personify the word resilient. So, okay, so Christine, let's dive into. So I think we've gone through almost, oh, you're a student at Harvard? So, not that you have enough going on. So, tell me real quickly, student at Harvard, what are you studying?
I don't think there's anything quick about my story, but I'll try to be brief. I Okay, so after I completed chemotherapy, I had terrible chemo brain. Chemo brain exists. It's basically your brain is foggy, your short-term memory sucks, and your cognitive skills are impaired. So I would literally drive down the road, like to go pick up my children. And if there was not somebody driving, if I turned and there wasn't somebody on the road, I would forget which side to turn on. That's how much chemo brain had affected my life. And I knew at that point, I had rebuilt my self esteem. I knew at that point I could not depend on other people to fix my brain. I had to fix it. And so it was all that kind of empowerment. I can do this. And so I said to myself, because I was not meditating on the outcome anymore, I was meditating on the courage that I could show myself every day. And so I said to myself, you know what? You should apply to Harvard. You should go back to school. You should get your master's degree in writing and literature and try to fix your chemo brain. So I said to myself, okay. So I applied to Harvard, and I also said to myself, if they don't accept me, who cares? You can never win if you don't try. And
Exactly.
so, but that's like so much of my life. I was so insecure and my self-esteem was so low that I wouldn't even put myself out there. I wouldn't try. So at this stage of my life, I was like, okay, tomorrow is promised to no one. I'm just going to try everything I can to help people, to make my life, better, happier, and less pain, and better cognitive skills, to be a resource to more, right? I wasn't a resource with chemo brain. And so I applied to Harvard. They took me, and I've been in the master's program for 3 years. I have one more year, and my chemo brain is completely gone.
Amazing. So you're using it. That's the
I'm
important
using it.
thing. If we don't use the gifts of which we're given, they will go rusty and die off. So, even on the days that are hard, just keep pushing through. All right. So why, why do you like, I'm just looking at this. why you've got so much on your plate.
Right.
Um, you know, I know that everybody's always asking, like, how do you monetize this? How do you do this? If you're doing everything for a nonprofit, how do you pay for the roof over your head? And I know for you, it's not just money. It's not
Right.
just about being financially rewarded, although that is a part of it. And that's something that I like to ask a lot of women about
Yeah.
is the monetization, because that's important. You've got to be able to pay
Sure.
for the roof over your head so you have security so you can push forward. Can you share with us, or if you're open to it, sharing
Yeah.
with us a little bit on your financial model, because you are a success story. So can you share with us a little bit of, somebody who's coming up maybe 10 years behind you in their journey, but similar story, and they're wanting to follow your role, follow your
Mhm.
your modeling. What is your monetization model around your speaking and your coaching or anything along those lines?
So I think the best way for me to describe it is I felt at a certain point that I had value and that value should be monetized because whether it was modeling and getting a paycheck from the modeling or getting a paycheck from speaking and not giving all of my speaking gigs away for free, which I did in the beginning because I needed content and I
We
needed
all
to.
do.
Right. I mean, you do, but
You have to get, yeah.
I think it goes back to self-esteem. I'm worthy of making a paycheck. I'm worthy of being compensated for what I do. And so whether it's speaking or whether it's being on a nonprofit or whether it's modeling or my book becoming a film or whatever it is, I'm setting myself up for a success, financial success, most importantly for emotional success, right? That's number one. But that doesn't have to exclude financial success. In fact, it shouldn't. We should be compensated for our hard work. And that's a self-esteem issue, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest struggle women have is that imposter syndrome. I see that
Yes.
repeatedly, credibility, confidence, and relevancy. And that's what the biggest challenges they face is that. And it's really easy to get sidelined by those that you've grown up with or have been around in your life, and they still view you as the 9-year-old that threw up on your cousin's payday game. They don't view you as the 49-year-old who's totally crushing it, right? Come on. You've got one person in your life that goes, I
One?
remember
More than one. Are you kidding me? I still have some that I'm trying to get rid of.
when. I get it. I am so there with you. Okay, before we dive into books, because I want to go through that real quickly, I do want you to share with me, and I know it's going to be hard to pick because you've had so many times that you've had to pull within resiliency so deeply. But can you share with us a time in your life that without resiliency, you would not be sitting here having this conversation?
So many things. I think the breast cancer diagnosis on top of my arm was my breaking point. I literally was almost buried in despair. I just didn't know how to move forward. I was a thriving mother, wife, model, self-proclaimed athlete who became a sickly woman needing constant care and attention, whose husband didn't want to change the model that they had made, right? She's this independent girl. She's this like really strong, tough girl. I was not the strong, tough girl when I was diagnosed with cancer. I was depleted after this whole arm situation. And after this man bullied me, I felt so low about myself. And the physical pain and the emotional pain was burying me. And I had a lot of friends show up for me. And I had a lot of people say to me, I will not forsake you. But man, without faith and without faith in God and without shifting my measure from society's accolades to saying to God, I'm just going to surrender and you're in charge, I would have never made it. And that was really the best shift in my life.
Amazing. And that and just having that surrendering up what you can't control and
I mean, I was
controlling what you can.
there was like there was so much despair and the suicide thoughts that engulfed me. And those are kind of normal thoughts when everything that you believed was your value is taken away. And I didn't know if I was going to be a mother anymore. I didn't know if my kids were going to be raised by somebody else. I didn't know if I was going to make it through chemotherapy. I didn't know if I was going to make decisions from a healthy self-esteem because I'd made disastrous decisions from a low self-esteem. I didn't know how I was going to ask my friends and family to help me after they just helped me for a year with my arm. All my pride and my ego it was tattering my decision making, right? And I was afraid of asking for help. That's insecurity. And when I started to have more compassion for myself and I started to let go and surrender, then I was able to ask for help, the help that I really needed. But that's letting go of pride and ego. And I can say this with certainty. The 40 years that I lived before this trauma, I accomplished things. But from 40 till now, never in a million years would I've ever imagined that I could have accomplished anything in those beginning days. I have accomplished more in my life since my cancer diagnosis. Diagnoses do not have to paralyze you. They can be just step ladders to your ultimate success and your ultimate dreams coming true. And that has been apparent in my life, but it's hard work and it's grit, it's grace, and it's determination. And resiliency and courage, those things can wane in your life, but if you have people around you that are lifting you up and encouraging you, your resiliency will never stop.
And I want everybody to take a moment and think about that, because if you're sitting there today and you're going through real struggles and you are thinking suicidal thoughts, even the passing ones, what would happen if I just drove off the bridge? What would
Mm,
happen if I maybe just decided not to get out of bed today? You know what?
yeah,
I have the story you're sharing, Christine, I have heard repeatedly from amazing women that, wow, even when everything was so hard, that their life turned around because they chose to turn around. They've leaned into those who support them. They've leaned into what their core principles are, and they have found things to celebrate. And that is leading to the greatest rewards. That is
yeah,
leading to the greatest years. So, uh, thank you for sharing, because that was, yeah,
yeah.
those are the
Thank you.
stories that people need to hear. So, we're going to jump over here to books, and I'm going to bring your book up on screen so everybody knows what we've got here. So, uh, Christine, walk me through. First of all, you're gonna give me your book. What's one book everybody should read? Walk beside me.
I yeah, well,
And what's the
I'm
other book
yeah.
everybody should read? Because I ask
I I
everybody.
I pick up the Bible first before my book.
And a
Yes,
quick close
always.
second is the Walk Beside Me by Christine Handy. Yes, the Bible is actually one that I see quite often when I ask people what book is a book that you should read, because every story is in there. There's something for everybody when you think about it, because there
Yeah,
is, everything to overcome the next obstacle, right? Every
yeah.
reason, season, and lifetime of stories. So, but I want to dive in because you mentioned movie also.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about your book, and what's the correlation between it and a movie?
So my book, Walk Beside Me, is a fictional depiction of my life. When I was going through breast cancer, I was gifted a lot of self-help books, which were very important, but I could not find a book, a fictional novel on the good, the bad, and the ugly about going through this kind of tragedy. And I thought that it was important for people to read it because I needed it. And so I decided that I would write it myself. And the book is also really important because it talks about the power of women coming together versus women, negating each other. This constant comparison and judgment in our society is not healthy. And so I talk in my book about the women that shored me forward and said to me, when we're done with caring for you, then we're going to send you out into the world and you're going to care for other people. And I took that very seriously. And they modeled that beautifully for me. So there's a lot of examples of that in the book, and there are a lot of great takeaways for people how to show your friends love going through illness, difficulty, or divorce, whatever it may be. And so that's the reason I wrote my book. And my book in 2018 was picked up to be made into a screenplay, and it's subsequently being made into a film. So a guy named Ziad Hamza is an Oscar award winning screenplay writer, and he wrote the screenplay for my book. And it really does mirror my book. Oftentimes books are made into films and they don't always resemble the book. This screenplay really looks like my book, and so it's a beautiful story of women like I said, caring for each other, It's a movie about breast cancer, which I think is really important because there's too many people being touched by breast cancer. And so it's slated to be in production later this year.
Amazing. Where's it being
Yeah.
filmed? Do you know what
Uh,
studio or what is it?
y-
Atlanta, LA,
so
Canada?
how did you know Atlanta?
Oh, because Atlanta is where if I open a studio, it will be in Atlanta. Flippin'
Yeah.
love that city.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it right out there, folks. I love the energy. I love the
Yeah.
people. I love the hustle. I love the spirit of generosity.
Mm,
I did not
beautiful.
meet a single person in Atlanta that I would not have over for dinner.
I love that. That's beautiful.
So, all right, so you're having it's being filmed in Atlanta?
So in Georgia, in Georgia,
In
I mean, it's
Georgia.
either
Yeah.
it's either New York State or Georgia because there's certain states that give films a tax break. Georgia's being one of them,
Yeah.
Arizona's one of them, New
Yeah.
York State is one of them. So yeah, probably East Coast, yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. But I
Awesome.
don't make those decisions. That's yeah. I
I
had
know,
right of
I'm just
refusal for
super
my trip, but
excited. I'm super
thank
excited for
you.
you because
Thank
this
you.
sounds to me a lot like it has the opportunity or the potential of the next Eat, Pray, Love.
I think it's got great potential. Again,
Does it
unfortunately,
that
because so
the
many
same
people are
kind
affected by breast cancer. Yeah.
yeah,
But here's the difference between my story of pain and suffering and cancer versus most of the movies that are out there about cancer. I don't die. Like we need that hopeful story, right? There's so many like think about it. Philadelphia and not Eat Pray Love. She wasn't sick, but all these movies about illness and the patient dies. So
yeah,
we need a movie out there about illness, really dark illness, but the patient
yep,
lives. That's hope.
absolutely. Okay, so where can people follow you? I've got your website here, christinehandy.com. Where can they connect with you on what social media platforms?
So I answer my messages on Instagram. If you message me on Facebook, it's I don't answer them. There's too many. But it's funny because I get people who are get angry. I'll eventually look at it and I'll go, wow, like they message me like 4 or 5 times. They're like, where are you? And I don't respond to that. But Instagram is Christine Handy one. Facebook is Christine Handy or Walk Beside Me have two. And then, if you Google me, there's a ton of articles and things like that. But if you want me to answer you, message me on Instagram, Christine Handy one.
Excellent. And are you still doing speaking opportunities or at like different women's functions or different
Yes,
nonprofits? So, and
yes,
that all goes through, do you have an agency that represents you or
I
who
do.
could they
I
reach
have
out to?
well, it's on my website, but it's All American Speakers is my main agent, and I also have a manager in New York, and all of that information is on my website.
Awesome. Okay. So this is where I need you to leave us with a quote, an inspirational quote, something that on your dark days helped you. What would that
Beauty,
be?
be- beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself.
Beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself. That
Yeah.
is beautiful. Well, Christine, I am goosebumps, goosebumps. You can't see, folks, goosebumps. Again, I'm light enough. I blend into the snow caps, so only white sand beaches are where I'm allowed. It's because the tower of my head, I blend right into the sand. Okay,
Mm,
jokes over. Uh, Christine, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your time with us here at Kim Talks and with me and giving me things I can learn. Every time I just so you go, no, folks, every time I speak to one of these amazing women, I learn something and my life becomes better. So
lucky,
I am
lucky.
truly blessed. This is what I love to
Yeah,
do. This is
yeah.
what I love to do.
It's a
And I
privilege.
am
It's a privilege. Yeah.
it is, absolutely. All right. So, folks, we're going to wrap up now. And I just want to say thank you again. In the words of the amazing Brene Brown, I want to thank you for sharing your most valuable resource, your most valuable non renewable resource, which is your time. That means
Mm,
something to me, and I really do appreciate it. So, if you're feeling your resiliency is lagging just a wee bit, I want you to lean in and listen in to our resilient community here. You can get your free resilient gift at resilientgift.com. And this has got our new monthly magazine featuring these amazing women that I'm interviewing. It has, of course, fun recipes in it, all sorts of things. Plus, anytime we do a live event, we're going to put live and virtual event, we're going to put those speakers' videos for you to have access to, because I believe that we all need to work together collaboratively, because I'm the queen of resilience, but also queen of collaboration. Again, thank you for joining us here at Kim Talks. I'm your host, Kim Hayden.